All right, everyone. This is John Papagiorgio. I am joined today, of course, by co-host Pete Maybe and two very special guests, the hosts of my favorite radio show. I say that in all seriousness. Ron Bennington, and his daughter, Gail Bennington.
I'm just sad that you had to say I'm saying this in all seriousness. as if who would believe that?
He says that about a lot of guests.
I'm not kidding this time. Well, I remember when you wrote that article for the Interrobang about Always Sunny.
Holy crap, you do.
Yeah,
wow.
No way.
And you said, admit it, it's great. And I'm like, I thought everybody knew it was great. There's some people who don't like that show.
I feel Always Sunny maybe around, season 10 now? People finally recognize that it's hit some sort of stride, and it is great. But I think a lot of people watched 2 seasons and walked away. And I'm one of those.
I
thought it hit its stride early. I thought it was amazing, probably by at least 3.
I always liked the fact that they never cared about doing the accent in Philly, even whatsoever, not even slightly. And then one time they did that show about accents, and they brought up if you had to pull something, you had to pull this card, and then whatever came up, you had to do the accent, and they were going around. And then they pulled a Philly accent, and they just started doing it and nailed it. They could have done it the entire time.
Why not?
It was really funny though. But I thought it was great that they were just this is what people from Philly talk like. Well, it's great to be on with you guys. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, thanks for waiting around for all the trouble.
So, I have to ask.
Good.
Hold on,
how
we're getting
does
a
this
call.
place, the DC Studios, XM, that's where we're recording before you're Unmasked with Ali Wong, how does this compare to the New York studio?
It's, I'd say, 1 million to 2 million times better.
Yeah, it's so massive. There's so much space. These studios are gorgeous.
So you guys are actually cramped. It's not.
Yeah. Well, we're in Midtown Manhattan, and we have 1 million stations, and all kinds of celebrities are coming in and out all the time. So yeah, we're way more cramped. This place is gigantic. We're about we are about 1/10 the size of this.
I imagine
easily.
it just one long hallway.
It is.
Is it something like
pretty
that?
much.
It is, and it's glass.
You guys are what? Avenue of the Americas, right? You guys are what floor?
We're 36th floor?
36th
floor,
yeah.
yeah. So, there's only
Just
one.
the one?
Yeah. There's, we got a couple of floors there. But this place is, massive.
It's also
awesome.
Gorgeous. It looks like you could shoot something about a radio station. It's so phenomenally beautiful.
It's an experience.
Well, we were talking about just writing a rom-com for this place. And I thought a radio co-host falls in love with a drug addict, gambler, producer.
Perfect.
Sounds about right.
Who curses way too much.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So,
Practically writes itself.
yeah, it does.
So you have the Unmasked with Ali Wong coming up.
Speaking of Unmasked, this is for the listeners. If you guys aren't following the at Twitter Unmasked account, you definitely have to. It's the only way you're going to get tickets, and all the interviews are amazing.
Well, thank you very much. Today, we're running the Big J Okerson because that's, running this weekend, and then I'm taping Ali. But we've got a couple more really cool ones booked up. A couple of the last ones were some of the funniest we've ever done, too. The Big J,
The
guys
Big
were
J
there.
one was hilarious.
It was just wall-to-wall laughs. Before that, Jim Norton was also wall-to-wall laughs, if you get a chance to hear that
Can't
one.
believe I missed that.
It's just a scream.
So, and by the way, I just want to say the Big J story where he was talking about dropping his pants.
Yeah.
To
Funniest
the theme
stuff
of,
ever.
2001.
All that I could think of was Bobby Hill. I just had the feeling, literally while he was saying it, I was just thinking of a young, short, fat Big J just trying to get love. He just got, in a controversial thing, Big J Okerson, he was with the AV Club, I believe, and it was their hate song.
Yeah.
And what he said was so offensive that they had to pull. There were so many complaints about it. They had to pull it off AV Club. Can't believe
I've never
it.
heard it.
No, me neither. That's the site with the Onion, right?
Yeah.
So you would think they're used to
They'd
some
be cool.
controversial things.
Yeah.
I think he said some stuff about Seal.
topical.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely too soon.
Speaking of the Onion, they just
See,
killed,
that's the thing. I guess no one knew that Seal had scars until Big J pointed it out.
Thank you for pointing that out. Now, speaking of the Onion, they just killed their celebrity gossip site,
that no one
Star
knows
Wipe,
about,
that no
yeah.
one knew about. Yeah,
I didn't know
like,
about it either.
Nope. I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe they built like a big office and they couldn't afford it anymore. But like seriously, there's so many writers out there. Just farm them out. You don't need. I don't know how you lose money or.
Yeah.
A website's $12 a year.
Right. So you're
what the
saying
hell's the
just
problem?
limit it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you not running it?
I didn't know about it though. You got to get it in my kitchen a
Well,
little
now
bit.
now it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm. This is a weird thing, and you guys must go through this as well, a lot more than us, because people know what they're doing when they're buying into Sirius XM. But anything can pull anything down now. Like a few complaints could turn over the apple cart for anybody.
Oh yeah.
No, absolutely. We've actually had our slots bumped around.
Because of those reasons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just due to a couple language complaints. Nothing really.
This will be airing at 10 p.m.
Okay.
Not the 5 we asked for.
Yeah.
So.
No, we know it all too well. You guys are actually. How does that feel? Being like maybe the last of what's left of talk radio, what used to be so big, and now it's just Sirius.
Do you really don't think it exists anywhere else, like kind of that kind of talk radio?
I think like there's little enclaves in the South where some guy named like Bubba in the Truck or some team like that is still doing a kind of.
By the way, I love Bubba. Hate the Truck. I think it's a gigantic. You know what's funny is there is an actual guy named Bubba, and he's like, "Why use me as an example?
You could have said anything.
Just say me."
And you know I don't share my show with the Truck. Okay.
Those days are over. No, it is an odd thing. You know what I mean? It is an odd thing, and for years, I kind of felt like I felt the ice breaking behind me. You know what I mean? Like being that last one in. But it really isn't that old of a thing to do anyway. You know, if you really look into that type of morning show, 70s, maybe late with Imus, but certainly more of 80s before it really took hold. When Howard got so big and people started to look around like, hey, is this the thing to do? So it's not like something that's been there a long time.
No, it's not like a guarantee in life. It was maybe limited.
It's doo-wop music, basically. Guy talk is doo-wop music. It's just a cul-de-sac that happened for a while. But what's funny to me is now that you have podcasting and people do the same thing, it really is that kind of same talk, except for they don't make a living at it. You know what I mean? That's the part that kills me. It's there, just no one gives it enough value that people can make a living at it.
Right.
It's very tough to make money off the podcasting.
Very few people do, correct?
Yeah,
and I think some of those people already have enough money. Like, they're already famous anyway, so.
Yeah, I think that's helpful, or some of the people who use it as a way to push their tour dates, you know? Mm-hmm. But you're still now going out and living like, a comic's life instead of, the life that I had where you could actually do this and, have a family and put kids through school and all that. I mean, it was an actual occupation for a very short period of time.
That breaks my heart to hear the short period of time.
Yes. I just let you know that it's almost like, oh my God, I ate this food that you'll never have.
But you're saying we're here for the death rattle. At least we're here for that.
It is somewhat of the death rattle. But it's up to the people, you know what I mean? I don't think I think that people, let's say in the 80s when they didn't like something, they would turn it off, not necessarily try to kill it. And somewhere around the 90s, they thought we need to bring some of these things down,
Yeah, people started getting a little too sensitive.
FCC fines and.
Yeah, and I mean, you had to eat, well, that one, you know what, in hindsight.
It was a line crossed.
Yes, it was. It was good to find out where that line was.
When I first asked, so it's awesome that we're in the Sirius XM building and we get to be in the studio, but when I first asked to go to our radio station, the very first thing he said to me was like, you can only be in Safe Harbor. Like, I don't care what time you want to do it.
Right.
So that was really difficult because, they wanted to play it safe because people might have complained.
Well, people will lose their jobs. Like when you brought up Sex for Sam, it wasn't just that those guys that lost their jobs. The PD lost his job. The general manager lost his job. And that's when they said basically like, hey, we're never doing this again. You know, no one is going, and it's sad to say this, but no one else is going to have sex in a beautiful cathedral while acting like that's funny.
What's the point of America?
Yes. And I believe it was anal. It never gets discussed.
Really?
And I believe it may have been anal. Yeah.
That's even
Yeah. Yes. Take it. Run with it.
So the ripple effect actually brings us to the next point. That ripple effect, the fallout from Sex for Sam, where the station then flips formats, propels you to the Fairfax area.
Yes. I worked at JFK.
You're a Florida guy. You're a New York guy.
Right.
Great places. And then it's 3 years in Fairfax.
Were we really there that long? Were we there for 3 years?
You were 03 to 05.
right?
Wow. Yeah. So 2 years. 2 years.
Okay, yeah. Getting inclusive.
But it did. That started Fez's panic attacks and, sadness. And as a matter of fact, when we left there, we were offered to work out of here. This was the thing. It was Eric Logan. And Fez is like, no, we have to go back to New York because that's where I could be sane. Again, that's where I'll be free.
Makes sense.
How'd that work out?
No, it didn't. It didn't. But you know what? Theories happen, You have to have a theory. But Gail, you never lived down here at all.
No.
You would come down occasionally.
Yeah, I was in school at the time. So, yeah, during that time of your career was probably like the most distant I was.
Right.
Where I wasn't able to, listen that frequently. So I would catch it here and again when I would come to visit, though.
Did it sound different to you? Did it sound like...
Yeah, it was a very big change. And for me, felt seemingly overnight because... I wasn't here for the beginning of it, and so I showed up, and you're like, "Yeah, this is this new weird vibe that's going on." It was,
yeah. Oh, you mean as far as Fez struggling?
Yeah, and everything, and also just like the style of the show was different.
Mm-hmm.
You were also doing, what was it, the Fastest Hour?
Oh yeah. We were doing
which was a
middays.
Great concept show, and
it was a great concept for Pardon the interruption, but it wasn't that different from what they were doing then. We just done radio in an hour as fast as we possibly could, but that was a ball.
All right. I have one question as just a fan of the format, fan of the station, all that. Do you have any great Don and Mike stories? Gail, I'm not sure if you know who Don and Mike were.
I've met them a few times, yeah.
Now, are you fans of them? Or are you...
I grew up it was just Stern, Don and Mike, and you guys.
Yes. I always thought that Don and Mike, and because they used to fight with O&A all the time.
It broke my heart.
I felt the same way. I was literally saying it almost seemed like for both of them, and I don't know who started or who returned, but I'm like, this is like seeing a dog bark at a mirror. You know what I mean? They're the same dudes. They're the same backgrounds, and that's something weird that I think the reason why that kind of talk radio didn't work so much, because there was always that kind of infighting. You know what I mean? It was that always, no matter what station you went to, the 12 o'clock show would be fighting with the 3 o'clock show, and or the the morning show. So it was always that way. Because I don't think Howard ever even got along with either one of those shows either.
They openly beefed.
And there was never any reason to do that. But I always thought that Don and Mike were terrific. As a matter of fact, I always thought that it was amazing. On 9/11, they were in New York with us at the time, and I remember when the whole thing was going down, going like, what is going to happen? And I walk in, and they were just running a straight news show, man. They went from being shock jocks to, all right, here's what's happening. You know what I mean? They're really good broadcasters, and to be good at any of this stuff, you have to be a good broadcaster. And I saw this that day, I thought, well, these guys could do, guy talk, but they could do sports. They could, do news. They would probably be great if they were a parade about it. The level of broadcasting skill that those guys had, I always thought was pretty amazing.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah.
And it's weird you mentioned 9/11. So you were there as well? The whole staff was there? I know the O&A show for 9/11. I wasn't in town, so I didn't hear that.
O&A couldn't come in that day. They did a show out of Long Island. Don and Mike were in New York at the time, So they were on the air. And then oddly enough, I ran down to Gail's school, got her, and brought her back to the station because we couldn't get back to where we were. So she was actually there with me during that entire show.
Yeah, I was in the room for that whole show.
Yeah, which was crazy.
Yeah, that was such a surreal experience. I mean, just opening up the phones and, people who are just still in that very raw
looking
state.
For people, yeah.
It was not, there wasn't even at that point of reflection yet. So
no.
Everything was still completely raw, and people were calling, looking for their family members. Yeah, it was
crazy.
It was a very intense place to be. And yet it felt very connected to be there.
Yeah. Well, that when you talk about the format, I mean, just think now how many places are automatic. You know what I mean? So guys like you should be making your bones at different shifts, at that point, and you'd be able to go on the air and talk about these things. But now I don't know where, I don't know what will happen if something like that comes up again. I don't know how many stations will be up and moving enough to actually be there to service the community. Like I said, Dynamite went from doing, the fact of their regular show to being that kind of show that would be able to be the center of a community, giving out information, taking in information. That stuff is a lot more important than people think. Mm-hmm. And, by the way, all the cell phones go down.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you really do need...
Rely on the radio.
You need terrestrial radio in that situation.
100%.
All right, well...
Let's end on the 9/11 note.
You know what? We tried to. Chris, why don't you come in and say hi?
We gotta get out of here.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
Chris, by the way,
Stanley
thanks
Bennington.
for facilitating this, man.
Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
And, I guess we have to wrap up on that note. He's given the signal. Ron and Gail...
you were giving a signal, Chris?
Yeah, I can count down.
A little bit.
Why?
I saw the fingers.
That was 5 minutes ago.
Well, I wish we could have ended on something a little brighter there. I wish I could tell you guys you have a future in this business. But you don't.
Nope. That's okay.
But you don't. But you're going to have something I never had, and that's VR goggles.
Yeah.
So
think
your
about that.
life
We
is
can
good
just play games all
too.
day, and you can do the voiceovers in it.
Yeah. Oh, you wanted to ask her about voiceovers. You never had.
I already
we
did,
didn't
but I'm going to have her sign some video games.
Characters you did. So we...
Oh, yeah. So I started, I worked at Rockstar Games for a long time. So I started,
Awesome.
I actually met them because I came in to do some voiceover, and through that ended up getting a gig there. But I just ended up being kind of like a utility player.
Okay.
So anytime that they would need
Women on the street.
Women on the street, oftentimes young boys. This is like
No, that
often if
definitely
there was like a
happens in the
10-year-old
voiceover
boy,
world.
that was my
Let's hear
job.
your 10-year-old boy.
So I'm like the first voice that you hear in Red Dead Redemption, and I'm the newspaper boy, and I'm going, extra, extra, read all about it. That's pretty much it. I'm the first, yeah. So you can hear me. I'm a lot of women screaming and crying, being raped and murdered, and I also play like a little anime character in. It's like an anime TV show within the actual video game. So to see yourself on a tiny screen within a tiny screen,
That's pretty
and
dope.
you know you've really made it.
What's that voice?
So that is so it was like, oh, Saki! It's like that. It's pretty much that. Speedball makes Saki sick.
That is perfect.
I don't know why Saki
Thank you
does
so much.
speedballs.
Saki makes me sick.
Saki did a speedball?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Any voiceover I ever
Thank you,
did
guys.
like that, I always went back to my same character, Gruff.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey. That's all I ever had. Shut up.
Gruff sounds a lot like Bubba.
Yeah, it is. It's Bubba. Well, dudes, this was really fun.
Thank you,
Chris,
guys.
Thank you so much.
Chris really looks upset with us because we've screwed up his
Sweating.
calendar. We've got to go say hi to some of the XM bigwigs.
Oh, yeah.
Kiss the ring. Thanks a lot, guys. Best of luck with everything. all right?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Gail.